What's up, guys? It's Eric from Verus Engineering. We are out at Putnam Park Road Course doing a back-to-back test with our Toyota Supra and another customer's Toyota Supra. There's a big difference between the Toyota Supras, so his is basically bone stock and ours is quite modified. We're really excited to see the difference between the two lap times as far as what our Supra does versus a factory Supra. We have 3 drivers today. So we have the 2 Supra owners, myself and Mike, and then we have Dan Clark, which is going to be our hot shoe ex-IndyCar driver, and we're going to see what kind of lap times we can put in each car. All right, so I've been lucky enough to drive both these cars back to back, and I can tell you that there is quite a bit of difference between the two cars, which is to be expected. One is a factory car, which is more than capable of taking a pretty dang quick lap time at Putnam Park, and the other is a heavily modified car, but you can tell that there's a power difference between the two cars. The yellow car does accelerate higher or better in the higher RPMs than our gray car, and then our gray car obviously has substantially more grip. So it's basically all the corner speeds, all the braking substantially improved due to the modifications to the car. Most noticeably to me is the increased confidence in the corners due to the increased downforce and tire grip. Braking is also improved because you're just more confident in the car actually stopping versus the factory car, which is, the brakes are not the best feeling and the tires are starting to squeal quite a bit. So overall, a large change in cars' performance, but both are very track capable.
This is Mike here at Putnam Park Road Course. Just climbed out of the Verus Engineering Supra, and I have to say, looking at the data, my lap times are at least 3 seconds a lap faster than I've ever gone here. All due to the fact that you can trust this car to stay underneath of you when you push it hard. I don't know what else to say beyond that, other than it makes a huge difference between driving a car that, yes, has more horsepower in it, in my car, but it doesn't have the Aero, it doesn't have the suspension stability that this car has, and so you can't push that car as hard as you can this car.
Hi, I'm Dan Clark, and we're here at Putnam Park today on a club member day with Verus Engineering. We have 2 Toyota Supras, and we're here to compare back to back what kind of improvements are made when you start using Verus Engineering aerodynamic packages. So with the differences between the 2 cars, the question obviously begs, what does it actually do on track? And having driven both now, I can say for certain there are some big changes. Obviously, we have a lot of Verus Engineering aerodynamic stuff on this car. It is a big jump just in terms of the things that are added on. Biggest thing that's noticeable when you're out on track is having driven the stock version, it's a lot of fun. It's fast. It's got a lot of power. Everything works very well. But when you start to really push a stock car on track, you always have to understand that a lot of these cars, all of these cars, they're all made to be street legal. They're all made to be comfortable on the road as well as be performance. So unfortunately, eventually when you're looking for really outright speed, those 2 things, street and performance, or street comfort and performance, they end up becoming at opposite ends of a spectrum. And so when you start to really push this car on track, you'll find areas it could be better. Obviously that's why we have this car. But what I noticed down on track is when you really enter into corners with a lot more speed, the rear suspension is not quite geared up to give you the grip into the corner, and so you're limited with rear grip. Means you can't enter the corner too fast because the rear starts to slide out. That was the biggest difference, I would say, because you notice when the rear slides out, it becomes a logged event in your memory. That doesn't happen with this car. And so that really makes the lap time a lot faster just in that alone, because now the rear, as we say in racing, the rear follows the front into and through and out of the corners. There is a suspension upgrade on this car. And the reason why it helps is because when you add downforce to a car, you give it a lot of grip potential, but cars all weigh quite a lot. And so a lot of that weight, when you're now entering into corners faster, a lot of that weight starts kind of traveling sideways laterally at a bigger rate as well. And so you kind of just need the suspension, you need suspension upgrades to follow the downforce upgrades. And the reason for that is you need that kind of stability in the suspension. You know, the suspension needs to be set up, prepared to hold the car stable, hold the car down on the ground while the downforce is pushing it. But when you start going through corners at a greater speed, you now have this bigger lateral G-force trying to pull all the weight in the car and the body of the car sideways or laterally. The suspension holds that together, and in doing so it helps keep all 4 tires on the ground, not just 2 or 3. And obviously more tires on the ground equals more grip. Right now we have the rear wing in kind of a medium-low configuration, which is really impressive as for me as a driver, because I could feel the downforce grip out there. The lap times increased by more than a few seconds, and we're not even using all the downforce that's available. Important thing to obviously touch on is your rear grip and your downforce option has to be a balance with the front downforce too. You know, you're not going to get around corners if you only have rear grip, just like you're not going to get around corners if you only have front grip. So, you know, as Verus explains, everything works together in unison. Some of the parts really quite actively complement each other in working together and producing the grip, and that's what we're always looking for. So there's basically a lot of potential in the rear wing here. And then the diffuser as well. I can talk about a lot of this stuff, but I'm only the guy that sits in the driver's seat and feels how it performs on track. So really, you know, when you're adding downforce, you're adding other performance upgrades, the ultimate goal is that you really end up feeling nothing. And so you end up getting less feedback from drivers because the car is really doing the job it's supposed to at that point. And we're talking about performance, so it's really all behaving quite well. And if it all works really well, nothing really happens on track into corners. If you drive a really stock street car on a track, lots of things will start happening. So the good news is it's all working really well. Unfortunately, that means there isn't a lot of feedback to give, other than the main thing being the lap time is a lot faster.